The First Cut, The Tale of a Young Surgeon, by Peter Sykes, narrated by John Delino Ziegler, Jr.
Chapter 1. Whilst working in casualty at the City General Hospital, I had been completely unaware of the time. But it was already 1 a.m, and I was beginning to feel hungry. It was 7 hours since I last had anything solid to eat, having existed on occasional cups of sweet tea throughout my evening shift. Although the night nurses had only come on duty at 8 p.m., their roster allowed them to return to the nurses' home at midnight, where they joined the nurses from the wards for a 40-minute break and a cooked meal. I had been working since 9 a.m, but there was no such facility for me or, indeed, for the other doctors who worked through the night. Fortunately, though, Bill, the night porter, and Stan, the night security guard, an ex-policeman, were happy to produce hot buttered toast on request. "That's a lovely smell," said my next patient, in a soft Irish accent. His nose was held up in appreciation of the aroma, reminiscent of the boys in the gravy advert. His appearance suggested that he was a tramp. He looked dirty, unkempt, and, as I discovered later, wore multiple layers of clothes underneath an old gabardine raincoat. He carried a woolen hat in his hand that I presumed to be responsible for the tide mark across his forehead. Below the line, his face was weather-beaten and brown. Above the line, it was strikingly pale. He obviously spent much of his life out of doors, wearing his hat most of the time. He was carrying a mug of tea, which struck me as unusual. Patients were advised not to partake of food or drink before they had seen the doctor, lest an anesthetic be required subsequently. Notices to this effect were prominently displayed throughout the department. My initial foot-of-the-bed impression was that he didn't look particularly ill. In fact, he looked healthy and cheerful. He also appeared rather pleased with himself and had quite a sparkle in his eyes. I was surprised that he had smelled the buttered toast, because the aroma that reached my nostrils was one of methylated spirits. "Top of the morning to you, doctor," he said. "To be sure, 'tis a nice clear cold night, is it not?" "You're Irish by the sound of it. Where exactly are you from?" "I am indeed from Ireland," he said. "The Emerald Isle, God's own country, from a little village called Killybegs. It's right up in the north in County Donegal. Lovely spot it is, too. Have you ever been there, doctor?" "Actually, I have," I replied, recalling a holiday that I'd enjoyed there with my parents many years previously. "And wild and beautiful it is, too. But what brings you to this country?" "'Tis a long story, to be sure, but I'm a priest." I must have looked surprised as I tried to reconcile his present appearance with his stated calling, before he continued, now in a conspiratorial whisper. "Well, doctor, to tell you the truth, I used to be a priest, but I was a bit of a naughty boy. I became rather too fond of the taste of the communion wine and helped myself a little too freely. The Bishop of Donegal disapproved and sent me packing. Not that he didn't partake of a little tipple himself, you understand. Certainly an interesting character, I thought, a defrocked priest, down on his luck. It was tempting to delve a little deeper into his background, but conscious of the time and hoping to get a little sleep at some stage before morning, I thought it best to move the consultation along. I asked him what the problem was. "'Tis me belly, doctor, so 'tis," he said. "I've got a terrible pain in me belly." He went on to describe his troubles in more detail, but it was a story that was difficult to untangle. The position of the pain he described suggested that it might be coming from the stomach or duodenum, but he insisted it troubled him when he moved his arms into certain positions, and occasionally when he scratched his head. This was not a combination of symptoms with which I was familiar from my study of medical textbooks. He also described a pain behind his left eye. "Only my left
Sample complete. Ready to continue?